Hello everyone, so let us check out the solutions to class 6 biology half year examination. Choose the correct options given over here. So the organelles are present in, where are the organelles present? The organelles are present in the cytoplasm. Outer surface of endoplasmic reticulum is either smooth or rough due to the presence or absence of ribosomes. The flat portion of the leaf is called lamina. Parallel venation can be observed in the leaf of sugarcane. Insectivorous plants trap insects to meet their nitrogen demand. Which of the following shows vegetative propagation by leaf? Bryophyllum. Seeds are produced from the ovules. Male gametes are produced inside the anthers. Dash is the reproductive part of the plant? Flower. Which of the following is an example of unisexual flower? Gourd. Now let us look at fill in the blanks. The product of, let me just pan it a little bit over here. The product of fusion of two gametes. Now remember, you are being asked the product. So the product is zygote. Tiny pores present on the leaf surface are called as stomata. Right? The inner membrane of the mitochondria is folded into finger-like structures. In monocot seeds, food is stored in endosperm. In cactus, leaves are modified into spines. Right? Now let us move up to this side. Modification of leaves into thin coiled thread-like structures. This modification is called as tendrils. Right? It gives rise to the shoot system on germination. Plumule. Process by which plants give out extra water through stomata. This process is called as transpiration. Okay. The stalk of a flower, it is called as pedicel. It provides rigidity to the plant cell wall. Now let us match the following. Vacuoles. Vacuoles contain cell sap. Nerium. Nerium shows whorled phyllotaxy. Thalamus. Thalamus bears the floral whorls. All the floral whorls, calyx, corolla, androecium, gynecium are borne on thalamus. Hydrilla, pollination by water. Grain, formed by fusion of seed coat and seed wall. This should be your answer. Give two examples of each of the following plants. Insectivorous plants, you can mention sundew, you can mention pitcher plant, and so on. Right? Xerophytic plants in which leaves are modified into spines. Cactus, opuntia, you can mention these names. Complete flower. Hibiscus. Hibiscus is a complete flower. Then pea is a complete flower. Rose is a complete flower. Fleshy fruit. Give two examples of fleshy fruit. So it can be guava, mango, right? Any type of berries you can add. Brinjal, tomato, all of them are fleshy fruits. Unicellular organisms, you can mention Chlamydomonas and amoeba, paramecium. There are so many. Right? You can mention bacteria, you can mention yeast, all of them, they are unicellular organisms. Okay, now let us define seed germination. So what is seed germination? Seed germination is the process by which the embryo of a seed becomes active and grows into a new plant. So, what does seed? How will you define seed germination? Here, the embryo of the seed. Where is this embryo present? In the seed, right? So, embryo becomes active. Let me use a different colored pen over here. Embryo of the seed becomes active and forms a new plant. Right. Photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? It is the process by which leaves manufacture. Let me write over here. Process by which leaves of green plant manufacture food, right? They prepare food, manufacture food. What is venation? Venation is the arrangement of veins in a leaf. How are the veins arranged? You remember, there is reticulate venation, there is parallel venation. Now let us talk about fertilization. So what is fertilization? Fertilization is fusion of the male and the female gamete. The male gamete and the female gamete, right? That is known as fertilization. Protoplasm. How do you define protoplasm? The protoplasm is the mass of living matter of cell. So when we define protoplasm, what do we write? It is the mass of the living matter. So all the living matter that is present in a cell, that entire mass is termed as protoplasm. Right. Now differentiate between the following based on the terms. So simple leaf and compound leaf. Let me scroll it up a little bit so that we get more space to write. Alright. Okay. So what we have over here? Simple leaf and compound leaf. In simple leaf there is, how do we define simple leaf? Simple leaf has single margin, right? So in simple leaf there is single margin or single lamina. There is only one lamina. But in compound leaf, the lamina is divided into small leaflets, right? Small leaflets. Calyx and corolla function. So calyx, what does calyx function as? What is the function of the calyx? Calyx protects the flower in bud stage, right? Protects the flower in bud stage. Now calyx we know is also green in color, so it also performs, you can also write, it performs photosynthesis in bud stage, right? Or otherwise as well, because calyx is green in color, it can perform photosynthesis. Now what about corolla? Corolla is it is brightly colored generally, so it attracts insects for pollination. Then it also protects the inner lying walls, which are the androecium and gynoecium. Androecium and gynoecium are enclosed inside the corolla, so it protects them as well. Dicot seeds and monocot seeds, the part where the food is stored. So when we are talking about dicot seeds, the food is stored in cotyledons, And in monocot seeds, this food is stored in endosperm, right? Node and internode. How do we define node and how do we define internode? So, what is a node? A node is the point at which a leaf arises, right? Node is the point at which a leaf arises. So you see a leaf arising on a stem, so that point is called as the node. Internode is the interval or the space. Interval, that means the gap. Interval means gap, right? Interval or gap between two successive nodes. Successive means one after the other. So between two successive nodes. So suppose we have a stem like this, a leaf arises from this point, a leaf arises from this point. That means this is a node, this is a node. So this part between these two nodes, this part will be termed as the internode. Okay. Chromoplast and leucoplast. The chromoplast we know is the plastid which has colored pigment. So chromoplast gives color to what? It gives colors to flowers, fruits, and wherever color other than green is needed. Leucoplast we know is colorless. So what is the function of the leucoplast? So what does the leucoplast do? The leucoplast, it will store starch, proteins, oils. So leucoplast stores starch, proteins, oils, and so on. Right? Now let us move on to the next question, which is define pollination and give two differences between insect pollinated and wind pollinated flowers. Let us raise this up a bit so that we get more space to write. Alright then. So, pollination. What is pollination? Pollination is, I'm writing it in short, transfer, please write full sentences, transfer of pollen grains. Where are the pollen grains formed? From anther. They are formed in anther. So from anther to the stigma of the same flower or a different flower. Same flower or different flower, but they must be of the same kind, right? So that is pollination. How are the insect pollinated and wind pollinated flowers different from each other? So insect pollinated flowers, I am just writing it in short over. Insect pollinated flowers will be large, right? They will be brightly colored because they have to attract insects, right? So they will be large, they will be brightly colored, they will produce nectar, they will produce scent. Okay, so their pollen will be sticky because it has to stick to the body of the insects, right? But when we are talking about wind pollinated flowers, so wind pollinated flowers are small, dull colored, right? So here the flowers are large and brightly colored, here the flowers are small and dull colored. They do not produce any nectar or scent because they are not attracting any insects. Here the pollen is sticky, here the pollen is dry and light because it has to float through the wind, right? It has to be carried by the wind. Over here the stigma in wind pollinated flowers, the stigma is feathery so that it can attract all the pollens that are floating around in the air. So stigma is feathery. Here the stigma is also sticky so that the pollens can stick over there. So any of these differences you can write. Given below is a diagram showing parts of flowers. So let us move on to the diagram now and let us check out the questions related over here. Alright. Why flower is known as the reproductive part of the plant? Because it carries the reproductive organs, right? So what are the reproductive organs? It carries the reproductive organs. What are the reproductive organs? Androecium and gynoecium. Androecium and gynoecium. It is responsible. Now the flower, it forms the fruit. This fruit will give rise to seeds and these seeds will develop new plants. That is why also it is called as the reproductive part of the plant. What happens to the ovary, ovary wall and ovule after fertilization? So what happens to the ovary? Ovary changes to fruit. Ovary wall changes to fruit wall, right? And ovule becomes the seed. So this is what happens after fertilization. Differentiate between complete flower and incomplete flower. A complete flower is the one in which all the 4 whorls are present. That means it will have calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium, everything. In an incomplete flower, one or more whorl is absent, right? Absent. It does not have all the 4 whorls. So they could be the unisexual flowers where either the androecium or the gynoecium is absent. The pollen grains germinate on the, where do they germinate? Germinate on the stigma, right? And form what? Pollen tube. In hibiscus, stamens unite to form what? Staminal tube. It is called as the staminal tube. Define photosynthesis. We already talked about that. Photosynthesis is the process by which green plants prepare their food. Define phyllotaxy. Now what is phyllotaxy? Phyllotaxy is the arrangement of leaves, on the stem. How are the leaves arranged? Right. Differentiate between alternate and opposite phyllotaxy. Also draw the diagram to show these 2 types of phyllotaxy. So if we are looking at alternate phyllotaxy, it will be like, let me use green color because so if we are using this type of a phyllotaxy, what is this? This is alternate phyllotaxy because at each node there is only one leaf which we can see, right? So this is alternate. In alternate phyllotaxy, only one leaf arises from one node. In opposite phyllotaxy, there will be 2 leaves arising from the same node, right? So this is called as the opposite phyllotaxy, right? Draw a well-labeled diagram to show the parts of leaf. You have that diagram in your book and that is what you have to draw. Mention 2 functions of transpiration. So first and foremost, it helps to cool the atmosphere. Wherever there are plants, it is always cool over there. Other function, it helps to lose excess water. So you know, plants, they keep on absorbing water all the time. So if they have excess water, they lose it through transpiration. Leaves make food for the plant in the form of glucose, or you can also write carbohydrates. Both of them are correct. Right. Gas evolved during photosynthesis is oxygen. Whenever photosynthesis takes place, oxygen is evolved. Draw a label diagram showing parts of the fruit. This diagram is given in your book. You have already drawn it in your notebook, so you should be able to do that. State two functions of the fruit. What are the functions of the fruit? First and foremost, it protects the seeds, right? So a fruit will protect the seed because the seed will give rise to a new plant, right? So they need to be protected. And then what other functions of fruit are there? It helps in the dispersal of seeds as well. So when animals or human beings eat the fruit and they throw the seeds away, so it is also helping in the dispersal of seeds. It also stores food. So we also get nutrition from the fruits. So it stores food. So any of these you can write. Write two differences between epigeal germination and hypogeal germination. Let us shift this a little bit to this side so that we can get more space to write. Two differences between epigeal germination and hypogeal germination. So epigeal germination, if you are talking about that, so what happens in epigeal germination is the cotyledons remain or come out above the ground. Above the ground. You have seen it in bean germination, right? Whereas in hypogeal germination, the cotyledons remain under the soil. Right. Under the soil. So it should actually be, they come out, cotyledons come out above the ground, or the cotyledons rise above the ground. In epigeal germination, the hypocotyle elongates. It is due to the elongation of this hypocotyle that the cotyledons come out. Whereas in hypogeal germination, the epicotyle elongates, because of which the cotyledons are pushed underneath. They remain under the soil, right? What else do we have? What is the role of water in the process of germination? Now, how does water help in the process of germination? So, whenever there is water, first and foremost, it causes the seeds to swell up. सीड्स जब स्वेल अप करेंगे तो भाई उनका सीड कोट बर्स्ट होगा और उसके बाद ही जर्मिनेशन जो है वो शुरू हो सकता है, राइट? एंड ऑल्सो इट डिजॉल्व्स द फूड. सो लेट मी राइट ओवर हियर, whatever food is present inside the seed, it dissolves the food so that the baby plant or the embryo can use it. So it not only dissolves the food. Now, why does it dissolve the food? Because the baby plant needs this food to grow. So it dissolves the food to feed the embryo. So the embryo gets it food because of the water. If the food was not dissolved, embryo will not be able, the baby plant will not be able to absorb it and take it, right? So these 2 points you can write. Swell up, it helps the seeds to swell up so that the seed coat can burst open, and it also dissolves the food to feed the embryo. State the function of cotyledon. Now, what is the function of the cotyledon? Cotyledon stores food. Stores food for what? Stores food for embryo or for the baby plant. The baby plant present inside the seed is called as embryo. I have written the answer over here as well. Dash is the edible layer of fruit. It is the mesocarp. So the epicarp is the outermost layer, which is the fruit wall. Mesocarp is the fleshy part, the part which is actually eaten, and endocarp is the seeds. Now, what does the cell theory state? Now, let us look at the points of the cell theory. It is for 3 marks, so let us look at the 3 points of the cell theory. What does it say? All organisms are made up of cells, right? Whosoever is living, they are made up of cells. That is what came as the first point in the cell theory. Then cell is the structural and the functional unit of life, right? So this is the second point of the cell theory, and the last point of the cell theory says all cells arise by the division of pre-existing cells. What do we mean by? Each cell will divide to give rise to new cells, right? Mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell. Give reason why is mitochondria called as the powerhouse of the cell? Because it performs respiration, and it is the respiration that gives energy. Because of this respiration, they get energy. Now let us come to the last question, which is the diagram of this animal cell, and let us label the parts over here. So what is part A? Part A is endoplasmic reticulum, right? Part B is the nucleus. Part C is, I think, lysosome or ribosome. It is not so clear over here, this diagram, but I am sure in your exam you will get a clearer diagram. And this is mitochondria. Maybe it is Golgi bodies or lysosomes or Golgi bodies. It's not so clear over here. So you label these parts. Two functions of the part labeled as B. So nucleus. What is the function of nucleus? First and foremost, it transmits the hereditary characters from our ancestors. What characters we obtain, they are transferred through the nucleus. Then it controls all the life functions, that take place inside the cell. So it is like the control tower of the cell, CPU of the cell. They take place inside the cell. Okay. Now the last question, differentiate between plant cell and animal cell on the basis of outermost covering. So in a plant cell, the outermost covering is the cell wall. In the animal cell, the outermost covering is the cell membrane, right? So I hope that you were able to get all the answers. So thank you so much for watching.